Hello, this is Linkara,
And Iron Liz.
and this is a commentary for my Power Rangers Zeo #1 review.
So, we're doing this a little retroactively, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a commentary made far, far, far after the fact. We'd planned on doing this sooner, but we got busy and never got around to it.
Yeah, I think we originally aired this at Magfest.
It premiered at MagFest, although originally it was supposed to be a Christmas release. The idea was that it will be a Christmas special. It will play in addition to everything that to the regular episode list, so I wouldn't interrupt the flow of everything else, and and whatnot. But a lot of things came in that screwed things up for me. Primarily, the music of Ron Wasserman during the fight scene. Now, Ron is awesome. This music is awesome, and I'm really, really, really happy that he did it for me. But the problem was that the only time available in his schedule that he could do this was after Christmas and after the New Year. Thus, I had to postpone it until after that when he can actually do it, because I wanted him for this.
Well, explain the story about Ron Wasserman.
I met Ron Wasserman at Power Morphicon last year. He was a guest. Just did a panel, and I just met him afterwards. He gave me an email address I could contact him with because I explained that I wanted to do the Power Rangers Zeo fight as an homage to, Power Rangers fights like I had done with the Mecha fight. And he's a really great guy, and he's done work for other Power Rangers fan productions, mostly because he's just that nice a guy, and he charges really only what you can afford.
Nice.
And for me, he actually said he decided to do it for free. I insisted on giving him something for it, though, so I did pay him a little bit, even though he said I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's still pretty cool that the same person who did the soundtrack of the Power Rangers show also did the battle music for us.
I know, I was very happy with that. Though the fight scene was a hell of a lot of work. For one thing, this was actually months in the making. Mm-hmm. I think the first initial footage that we shot for it was either before a convention or before I went. No, it was before a convention. It was before DaishoCon. It was like the night before, or like 2 days before we planned on going out to that con. Because I was like, okay, I got to get some of this footage done with. So pretty much most of the stuff where it's just Linkara. On screen, it's me getting tossed around before I morph into my awesome Zeo form, of course.
Yes. I think the original designs of Lord Vice, you were working that even before we moved to our apartment. That's almost, a year ago? Last summer, basically.
Oh yeah, I had
I
had components of the Lord Vice costume ready for me by the prop lady. I didn't have the full thing until October of that time, I think, if I remember correctly. But for this, the Zeo costume was also something I had the prop lady design and work with. I gave her pictures of Zeo and told her, okay, I want a white version of this. Don't worry about the legs or the arms too much, because for one thing, I'm not going to look good in spandex. Mm-hmm. And secondly, because I'm just making it a modification of the Linkara outfit, I'm going to have a jacket over it and have pants on. So that made things a lot easier in that regard. But the point behind the Power Rangers Zeo episode was that I wanted a sequel to the original Mecha fight. And I had been planning that since the summer of that year, because I had really been... The Mecha fight was popular. It's part of the reason why I have storylines to this day. It was really well received. I think I had like only 2 or 3 people in the comments ever say, I just didn't like this. Mm-hmm. And they were very nice about it, and they just didn't prefer it, which is fine.
Right.
But it just meant that I wanted to have a follow-up, a sequel fight, where we raise the stakes, go to the next level, have a Zord fight against a monster. And I think in that regard, as a sequel to the original Mecha fight, it succeeds. The problem, and I think the reason why this one wasn't as well received by people in the comments section, was because there wasn't as much build-up to it.
That's true.
Yeah, the original Mechakara fight, I had several episodes leading into it, building up the mystique and mystery behind Mechakara, then it feels like an actual conclusion. During the Vice storyline, Mechakara was more of a lackey, and as such, there wasn't as much build-up. I think if I had released it as a Christmas special, it would have been better received. People wouldn't, instead of interrupting another review in order to have this fight going on.
Right. And that's just the way scheduling works sometimes.
Well, I knew I had to have the Mechakara fight happen before the Lord Vice fight. The first Lord Vice fight where he kicks my ass, because I'm supposed to be... Because in the Cry for Justice Lord Vice fight, I'm supposed to be confident and strong, and I'm like, yeah, I can kick your ass because I'm awesome. But because of the fact that I had to postpone it, it just suddenly comes out of nowhere. We interrupt the Cry for Justice review for this one Power Rangers fight that was never scheduled.
Oh, you got by the way, Power Rangers here, you gotta love the day for night shots there. I don't think day for night actually looks good on anything.
Day for night on the moon, no less.
Uh-huh.
Oh, good time.
Rita's Madonna boobs.
This was not a bad comic. I'm actually really surprised that this was not continued. They apparently just lost the license, and unfortunately there is no Power Rangers Zeo and Youngblood crossover. They solicited it, but it was never actually produced.
Yeah, although the artwork is a little wonky.
It is. I think this was Todd Nauk who did this, who did some really great stuff later on in his career, but during this time period, I think he was stuck with a lot of the 90s art trends.
Yeah, you do notice the almost Liefeldian influence.
Well, everyone was influenced by Liefeld at the time. This just pissed me off because I love Camelot. It's my favorite movie. And it's like, and then even try to like sing a song from it, and they say that Rocky is fun-loving and jokester. No, he isn't. I watched the show. I mean, I love all these characters. I love a lot of the stuff they did with them, but no, that's not his character at all. It's not his personality.
And I wouldn't know because I never watched Power Rangers. For me, Power Rangers was always on before Digimon on Saturday mornings. So I'd be like, oh, come on, let's just get through this here.
See, that just gave me multiple things to watch in the morning. Gave me an excuse to get up early.
Well, for me, it was Saturday mornings. I had to go into work. And nobody's up on a Saturday morning, so I'd be able to watch cartoons.
Good times. Thank God for TiVo eventually.
Yeah, no kidding, but back then you had to get what you could get.
Tommy is down to earth, apparently. I did not know that. He's a race car driver who eventually became a paleontologist.
Sure, why not?
People are still debating about that for my Dino Thunder review. The fact that it took 7 years for him to become a doctor in paleontology and, acquire a teaching license.
Oh, in that previous shot, too, he also had a butt-chin mustache. Or goatee, or whatever you want to call it.
So, yeah, I was really sad that I wasn't able to get this out sooner, and if it hadn't interrupted things, I think it would have been better received.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew there had to be a second Mechakara fight. I couldn't just incorporate it into the final Lord Vice fight. It would just come out of nowhere, and Mechakara deserved his own fight stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, I think overall it worked. I don't agree with people who say the fight lasted too long, because actually this is shorter than the original Mechakara fight. It is. The original Mechakara fight lasted 15 minutes. This one lasted only 10 minutes.
Okay. Maybe it's probably the abrupt, insertion.
Well, part of the abruptness is the fact that originally I had a different idea about how Mechakara was going to make his presence known. I've always wanted to play up the fact that a lot of my enemies, they are physically stronger than me. So what I wanted to do with that is kind of pull a Kool-Aid Man and have Mechakara burst out of a wall. He wouldn't be yelling, "Oh yeah!" But I had learned online how to construct a breakthrough wall, a false wall.
The breakthrough wall, yes.
Exactly. And actually in a lot of shots you can see that I have a bunch of foam board in the background, large pieces of foam board that I originally was going to use to construct a false wall and have Mechacara punch through it.
Yeah, I don't think we had enough time, though.
Yeah, it was just a matter of I ran out of time to construct a base. I ran out of time to construct the collapsible wall, to add all the nitty gritty. So because of that, I just had to settle for Mechacara comes out of nowhere, swings his fist at me, and I duck down.
Yep, swinging my fist against the wall.
Yep. Which unfortunately did not entirely work because of the autofocus going blurry.
Yeah.
That's something I still have to figure out with this camera. The last time I tried to affix the focus so it wouldn't change, resulted in what we're going to see in the Doctor Who Classics review in the final Vice fight, where the green screen stuff looked very blurry. I don't know why it ended up like that, but that's what I tried to do when I tried to change the thing over to manual focus. This is why I tend to stay with the autofocus.
Right. If it's don't broken, don't fix it.
Exactly.
This made me wonder about the cogs and whatnot. Why do they, if they're machines, why do they have gender?
The cogs don't have gender. They're all machine things. It's just in this comic and a lot of the other ones they. Oh no, you mean the Machine Empire has with Queen Machina and.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just one of those great mysteries. Oh, and Tommy spontaneously is black here. Bad coloring. Also, the Zeonizers are individually colored, which they're not. Gah. People even watch the show. This is another callback to the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers review where I said you have to suffer through the morphing sequence like I did every single episode.
No, I wonder if they'll actually have a male Pink Ranger one day.
I doubt it, but that does remind me of a joke that's going to be used that's in SPD. They're the main ranger in that one, who's not really the main ranger, but the guy who starts off as the Blue Ranger. He keeps talking about how he'd just be satisfied with any ranger color, and one of his colleagues said, "You'd be satisfied if you were the Pink Ranger."
I don't know, it'd be kind of progressive if they pulled it off right. They'd have to do it correctly, though, but...
Really, the problem behind the colors behind a lot of the suits is the fact that it's in Japan, and Japan starts off the Sentai, and with a lot of the change with the cultural norms there, they never have a male Pink Ranger. Mm-hmm. Still, they've found happy mediums in other ways. They've actually had female Blue Rangers now, and male Yellow Rangers. Mm-hmm. So that's good, at least.
Yes, but pink is such a loaded color, though.
Yeah. I think pink Starburst tastes good. There's a non sequitur for you.
I'm a fan of the red ones myself.
Good. But yeah, the Power Rangers Zeo review. I don't think it was as funny as the other Mighty Morphin review as well. I tried to make as much fun as I could, but it's honestly pretty damn good and solid for a Power Rangers story. I mean, it's certainly the kind of thing I would love to see if it had been actually in the series, because I love the continuity between the seasons, continuing cast, and the fact that in Zeo they did bring back Rita and Zed as recurring villains.
Maybe this is my own kind of perception, but it seemed like the first two seasons of Power Rangers were really the ones that kind of nailed it. And then with Zeo, it sort of tapered off a little bit. Yeah,
ratings were starting to slip by the third season, so they decided to reinvent the series with Zeo, brought back Jason as a cast member again. It was a lot of fun. It was a really good ride from Adam goes Heil Hitler. It was a really good ride, and I enjoyed it, which is part of the reason why it stuck with me for so long, the continuing continuity of it, which helps explain why I'm a comic book fan. I love the continuing story, and why I was so saddened when by the time Lost Galaxy came around, they stopped having a continuous story. They just had a new villain and a new cast of Rangers each season. And this I still don't get. The original powers, the original Mighty Morphin powers are a bunch of gummy worms in a jar. How does that work?
Skeleton powers. I don't know. Quantum.
Quantum. There's our answer.
It works in Star Trek. It can work here.
Shaka Koom. You always love sound effects in comic books. Just the things that people come up with.
Although the one that I most remember is douche. That is not a splashing noise, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed. I've read that some of the script details and some artwork from the other Zeo stuff was produced. It just was never released. So some of the artists and writers did tell like details, like Billy would get his powers back briefly, of course. So and it would have made for a really good story. I'm just really sad that this comic never went anywhere.
Yeah. Well, again, it might have been the demand for it.
Featuring the Mega Battle Zord. It's and Big Rig. It's a selling point.
Oh, you and your fandom. I have it in other ways as well, but your encyclopedic knowledge. Oh God, and the Youngblood.
I would have really been interested to see where they went with this.
That's a match made in heaven right there.
Indeed. I'm really sad this never came out. This would have been a great thing to do for a storyline conclusion, a 2-part storyline conclusion. I would fit the bill of having be a Youngblood story and a Power Ranger story.
How would you pull that off? Oh, and there's my hand. You know, Youngblood stuff is always a little bit more violent and head exploding and stupid and yeah, Power Rangers is a kid show.
And yep, the wrecking of the original Morpher. Actually, if you pay attention to some of these shots, you'll notice that some of them have more of a pinkish tint to them. That's because I used 2 cameras for this. My original camera and then my newer camera, which of course, you know, the footage looks different because it's recorded on something completely different.
You'll notice too, any shot that has my arm in it is a smaller. I don't have as large hands as you do. I just noticed that. You also notice in the background too, on the wall there, we don't have Princess Peach and is it Rosalind?
I do not know.
From Mario Galaxy.
Because we got those at DaishoCon and then we hung them up.
did.
That's the thing. If you pay attention to the background, you can notice all the background details that changed as we kept filming this stuff. Like, for example, the countertop right there, all the contents there kept changing. When we originally had it, there were still boxes from us moving in. Mm-hmm. And of course, the BFG was the original way we defeated Mechakara, so we figured, hey, let's give it a shot. Same goes for Poyo trying to hack into him. I remember the continuity, and I want to try to, you know, establish that just doesn't work anymore. And your swords.
Yeah.
And the introduction of Judas Liz.
You specifically tucked the shirt in, I think.
And the Frostmourne. The Frostmourne was a donation from a fan. Mm-hmm. Was very kind of them. I had no use for it. You did.
Yes. I'll start reviewing again eventually, but the storyline, it's a specific reason as to why she's using Frostmourne. And for folks who don't know, that's the sword that Arthas uses in World of Warcraft, or Warcraft 3, the Lich King.
Mm-hmm. I used like 2 or 3 daggers in this, and people have said, well, you already used the Dragon Dagger originally. Well, yes, but this is technically a rebuilt Mechakara, so it doesn't have quite the same amount of weapons the original had. Oh, and my hat falls off between shots. That was kind of deliberate. That was supposed to imply that. Didn't quite work. I had to zoom in on this shot because while it looked good from behind originally, but it turns out you were wearing my hat, and I had forgotten, no, the hat had fallen off. And we kept intercutting this because I had to go into the bathroom, add more blood, and then come back out for more punching.
Yep.
But yeah, I had been planning and writing this fight for a few months now in anticipation of this. And because I knew there was a couple of things I wanted. One was the build-up of the new weapons in the Arsenal of Freedom. I wanted to show that I was a much more competent fighter than I originally had been. I had more weapons at my command, especially stuff specifically designed to fight Mechakara if he came back. I had to rush through some of the editing things in order to get it done in time for just like any kind of release, which included, if you notice, the first time I blast him with the gold rifle, with the gold staff, there are like these little electrical lines that go over his body. Those looked cool, but the problem is they took too damn long to apply, because I had to manually move them each frame. I had to come up with a lot of new special effects techniques for this. I mean, I obviously, a lot of the stuff is just done in Photoshop and then added over it, but I had to come up with new ideas for how they would come about than just be random lines. I came up with the idea of like one single lightning bolt moving up and forming the shape of it, and then flash, it's there. And then new techniques for the Zeo powers to recreate the effect of the original morphing, which I think was like 7 layers.
Good God, sir. And then here it goes in showcases. I'll never forget the the fan reaction. I think they called you Linkara the White.
Linkara the White, Pimp Kara.
Kara too. That was another one.
What I love about this fight sequence right here, first of all, I like the fact that we're now in the new camera, and of course the footage looks like it flows more like a movie. But the thing that I love about this sequence is that right when I do the repeated punch of Mechakara, no one pointed this out, but the fist that I'm using keeps changing. In one shot, I'm holding it with one hand and then punching it with the other. Then you can obviously see it's different. I totally didn't catch that until I was reviewing the footage, until I was reviewing the actual fight. The Battleizer, which I had used previously. Again, I tried to foreshadow a lot of the stuff like I had with the original Mechakara fight. A lot of the weapons that I utilized in that were stuff that I had used previously. I just try to build up so that all the little storyline bits, they all come together to form this, whatever this is. Falling next to the Morpher.
And that's not the last we've seen of him.
Oh no, I have plans. He's too good a villain to completely kill off. I just need to, the thing is, I need to have the fights plausible and come to a conclusion in a way that...
Angel of Retribution. That was intentional as well.
Of course.
Judas Priest.
Judas, Liz, Iron Liz, it all makes sense. It's perfect, I love it.
Yes, and if you'll notice too, there's actually a hole in the armpit of that shirt.
And originally, the reason why a lot of these shots are shot in the way they are is because you originally didn't really want the people to see that it was your face behind it.
Not originally, yeah. It kind of... Yeah, it changed a little bit after the... I will say this, though. After the Star Trek episode, the next one after that will be a Judas Liz episode. So when that goes down to it...
And the only logical way for Mechakara to grow, to me, was to use the magic coin. We were just like, huh? I never got to use the Zeo weapon. I went to the trouble of trying to get one that was in good shape. And Obscurus Lupa surprise cameo right there. The stock shot that I got off of Google Maps of Minneapolis, there was a big billboard for Sean Hannity on there, and I was like, no, I really don't want to promote that, so I'm just gonna like, okay, Obscurus Lupa's title cards are the exact right fit, so I asked her to send me one over.
It was a nice effect.
In this sequence right here, Spoonie and I had planned in advance that that Neutro had gone missing. I asked him if he could just like slip in a line somewhere. He originally wanted to do something about something else. I can't remember what it was. But then he was like, okay, what if I say that like Neutro just got taken? And I was like, okay, go with it. Because I knew Neutro was going to be my Zord. But then it became just a perfect throwaway line that would lead into this. And actually my little device to summon Neutro is a Power Rangers in Space Astro Morpher. And this is a mech cockpit that I actually designed a long time ago when I was trying to be a 3D artist. And I wasn't very good at it, but I like had made a basic cockpit which served as a perfect background, and then just added my logo in the back. And the NES Advantage is an homage to Ghostbusters 2.
Yep, of course.
Poyo, I love Poyo with the headphones on. He's just like, he's very professional like that.
No, we finally debut Neutro here.
And then we finally debut Neutro. The prop lady does such awesome work for me.
Yes, she does, and you can obviously tell it's in there. If you catch a back glimpse of me from behind, you'll notice that we didn't quite get all of my hair in there. Yep.
Yeah, I tried to wrap a scarf around it to cover it up. It didn't work. So in this case, I just figure it's not hair. It's like wires and stuff that are just exposed because it's not finished.
Yes. But she did a great job with that costume. It's actually fairly padded.
It's a great costume. I really got to figure out another way to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that for some reason, the green screen of it turned out terrible, even though it's bright blue and the background is green. I don't know, just like the color correction or something went wrong. So I gave it to Phaelus first because he's used to doing green screen stuff, and he fixed it up a little bit. And actually, he's fixed it up really well. It looked really blue and green, but it still wasn't good enough for my green screen technology. My green screen software. So I gave it to Lanipator like the night before the trip, asking him, "Can you please do something with this?
Do some surgery on this."
And he was able to fix it up. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's passable. And considering it's based on cheesy Power Ranger stuff, I think it really worked.
Definitely.
One thing that I am disappointed with this final fight, though, is that I should have stuffed the wrist of the shirt I was wearing into the hand.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's like. Wow, that's a really clean cut on that laser eyes.
Definitely.
But yeah, foreshadowing. Mechakara will probably return. How? We don't know. We have I need to build up other villains first before we have a triumphant return of Mechakara. And yes, and because this was a big finale, I wanted to emulate the original Mighty Morphin credits too. This is a sequel fight.
Definitely.
And I think I accomplished making it a sequel, making it bigger than the original fight, and trying to also emphasize the triumphant nature of Power Ranger Zeo, which is how I described it. But if you didn't like it, that's fine. I tried. Any final thoughts?
Well, I will say that the Neutro costume was really hot. Not as bad as the other armor, though.
But that's something we'll talk about when we talk about... Told you all there would be more Neutro. I planned it. But we will get to that when we talk about the Doctor Who Classics number 7 review. And the final fight with Lord Vice. Who is Neutro?